Yishi said, I'm Samuel Snopko, and I was working for some time already with Nuxt.js, and I was looking always for the headless solutions CMS that I could connect the Nuxt.js, and then later I found the Storyblok. And basically, as a disclaimer, I joined the Storyblok this year from the January. So now I'm also like this is a little bit biased. So I'm going to talk about the Storyblok and how to connect it with Nuxt.js and how you can do it basically very fast in a few steps and in really like in a matter of 25 minutes. Okay. So this is this talk I already presented the VueJS global meetup, but that was a little bit faster. So I try to be a little bit slower today because I have a little bit more time also for it. So enjoy it. As first, I already said a little disclaimer about me, but I was like working as a front-end developer. I love Star Wars, so that's why it's FrontEnd Knight and DesignOps. I was like working on a lot of websites with huge design impact and custom designs created just for a customer. And then I was organizing some meetups, and I was like a huge fan of Vue.js. As soon as I used the Nuxt.js and find the Nuxt.js, I basically I do everything in Nuxt.js, more or less. Even nowadays, I am learning also other technologies. As the head of the DevRel in a Storyblok, I am writing also articles about other technologies. So, okay. But I don't like a lot of slides, and that's why we are going to jump directly into the coding. And as basically I said, we are going to start from the scratch. So what is the first start if you are starting the Nuxt.js project? The first thing is like basically create a product.js project. So what you could see is basically you can install using the npm or yarn globally your create next app, and then just run yarn create next app Blazingly Fast, which will be in this case the name of my project, and you can just run it. This is a little step-by-step tutorial where I'm in this case just hitting few enters. I'm using usually JavaScript. That's just it. I like yarn. Okay. In this project, I'm going to use the Tailwind CSS, so you will see some styling is made very simple by Tailwind CSS, and there will be like this will be no topic of this talk, but I'm encourage you to try it. It's really good for your websites, and it's really fast. I don't need any custom server, and usually you would go for Axios and .env. In this case, it's .env for this like saving all your like secure stuff like tokens, which we will be showing you, that should be saved in your .env file and shouldn't be like pushed into a repo or anywhere. Okay, I'm not going to choose any linting tool in this moment. It will make me a little bit slower. And of course, no testing. It will be universal application, and then just JSON and just run. It's install everything you need, and you should end in project like this. So to save a little bit time, I already prepared. And the first thing you should do is like test is everything installed correctly. So let's jump and run our localhost and our developer environment. So I just run yarn dev, which basically started our Nuxt.js project, and it should run on the localhost. So if you jump to the localhost, you should see a welcome screen from Nuxt.js, Nuxt.js, which is great starting screen. If you learned first time about the Nuxt.js, you can just jump to the documentation or GitHub. In this case, we see it's working. So what's the next step? The next step is like we need to store somewhere our data. Okay, so where we are going to store as data is the Storyblok. So I will open Storyblok, and don't worry, I'm not going to register. I'm just going to log in very fast, and basically I'm already logged in. So after all the registration and that kind of boring stuff, which every developer is like should be like very, very quickly for it, we ended somewhere like here, and we are going to just create a new space. I click here, the new space. Let's give it a name, very similar, Blazingly Fast Showcase, and just create a new space. And in this moment, I have a new space. I jumped directly to the content. Maybe I'm a little bit too fast. So I jumped to the content, and in this moment, as we are all advanced developers, we just close the tutorial, and we see our first entry or our first story in the Storyblok created. So let's jump it and open it. So what is here? On the right side, we can see basically an editor, content editor of our content, and in the middle it should be like the preview of our website. But at this moment, we don't see anything here. So I just quickly get through the editor and what it's created here, because by default we created some hello world content, just that there it should be something. So in this case, you see that there is a teaser called component called teaser, and there is like just one field with hello world text, and then there is a component called grid, which is basically an encapsulation or array of another components. In this case, we call it block, and it contains another component. So basically, it's like an array of components. And in this case, it's like multiple features, and I can create or copy a new feature, and then I will just rename this feature to number 4. Okay, I created some content. I can play with it, but I don't see any visualization of it. If I save, it's nothing happening here. So on the middle, I would like to see my website. So how to do it very fast? At first, the most important stuff is that here is shown the API token, which we will use a little bit later. But first of all, we need to use this token. And to use it, it's first of all, what do we need to do? Is install a module for the Nuxt.js. We in Storyblok already created this module. So you just go for yarn add Storyblok next module and hit enter. It will install it, add to package.json as always, and everybody should know. And then we can jump to the next config and add the configuration for this module. So just I will scroll down into the modules, and I already prepared that I don't have to write everything into 1,000 typos. I would just write this few lines of code. So in this case, I just basically import or like tell more to the Nuxt.js that there is a module called Storyblok Nuxt.js, and here should be my token. There is a little bit more configuration we want to play with it, but in this case, I would just need a token. So let's copy the token, and let's put here the token. I can save I will save the file, and I run my Nuxt.js project. So okay, let's see if it's compiled without the errors, and we should see no errors, hopefully. Let's jump to the screen. I can reload it here, and it's done. Okay, it's working. Everything looks good, but still, we don't have any difference here. Right? There's like nothing happened. But I already know that it's connected with my Storyblok API. So what should I need to do is basically just, as you could see here, I jumped too fast. As you can see here, there should be my localhost address, and it says that your server address is like the home, and it's showing nothing. And this is the first problem. So I need to tell the Storyblok where what it should open in this preview window. So let's big jump to the settings, and in the settings, I can say that I'm going for localhost. So okay, let's just copy the localhost environment. And if I need to create more environments like NowAsH or testing or a live environment, I can just add a multiple previews like this. So localhost, and just add it also here. So okay, I will save it. I will head back to the content, and I will open my home page or index page, which is called home. And now I see an error, which is progress. It's not exactly good, but I see a Nuxt.js error. As you can see here on the left side, there's Nuxt. But what does this error mean is that Nuxt doesn't know anything about the home. There's no routing for a home. So as I didn't create a home page in the Nuxt.js, as you can see here in the pages, there's only index page. And the index page usually is like empty string, like it's no named or just slash. So what we're going to do is just configure our home page that it will be always like the real part, it will be just a slash. And this will tell our visual editor that the real part of this particular story or page is just a slash. So I save it, and now I see the Nuxt.js there. So it's connected right now in this moment. And this is a progress. This is good. And if I would like have a multiple environments, I could like jump between them here. As you can see, I could go for localhost, which is the same thing as what's my default environment. So, but still, I don't see any content from here. So why don't I see the content? So I created the content in the components, and the page is also one of the components, and I can prove it. And how I can prove it is like I go back to the component section of the components area of the Storyblok. And you can see here that I already created 4 components, or the 4 components are created for us. And this is like page, which acts as a content type, which is like common name or common definition of the content in any other CMS out there. And then I have like 3 other components that are called featured, grid, and teaser, and they are nestable. So basically, I can nest them in the other components like grid or like in page, but they cannot be like used to create a new story like a page or article. The reason why I don't see them in the preview is that I didn't create any components on the Nuxt side. So let's head to the Nuxt.js and create those few components I just defined and showed you. Let's keep this open and let's create them here in the Nuxt.js. And of course, I already prepared for that. So in my components folder, you can see there is like teaser, which is a very simple component with a super short template and rendering a little bit text, so block headline. And the block is my props, which I'm going to send my data through the page, and all the blocks, basically, I'm going to send it to the final component. And then I have a little bit tail and CSS styling. Done. Nothing complicated. Then I have a page, which is like a template of the page. And in this case, as you can see here, I'm using here the default component, dynamic component from the VueJS. And this is just resolved that according to the JSON and the content I'm getting, I'm going to render here dynamically a different component. So here is like, if this block.component will be a teaser, I will render the teaser. But if it will be like grid, then I will render the grid. And this is just like looping through all my content. The grid is basically just a flexbox or flex list of features. In my case, I'm rendering here as dynamically, but I could also replace this with a feature because in our sampler we are only sending here the features, and this is the same principle as before. And the feature is also like rendering only the names. So it's like the H1, and inside is the name. Okay. So you now maybe wonder how it's getting those data here and how the data looks, because I showed you here that I should have something like called block component, and this JSON is very easy to show. So at first I need to go to home, and here I created my test content, and here on this with this arrow I can show you the draft JSON of it. And if I look here, then I can see that there are different components. So here is the component teaser. So the body is, in this case, an array of like component teaser. Then I have a component which is called grid, and this consists of another components which are encapsulated in the property called columns, and there are the features. So these are the data I'm going to get from the Storyblok, and I just described it a few minutes ago. So the next step I need to do is I need to register those components to the in Nuxt.js. So let's open the component.js file in a plugins, which is a little bit shortcut. I wouldn't recommend it to do it this way for all of the components, but you can do it because it's not performant enough. But in this case, it's as a sample, it's very useful and very fast. So I just register all those components, and then one last step I need to do is like go to the Nuxt config file and also like enable that plugin of the component. So in this case, we should see that Nuxt.js is recompiling the project because the new components were registered globally to the Nuxt.js. And after the reload, we maybe see the difference. Oh, we don't see the difference. And the reason why don't see the difference, if we still didn't load it, we didn't made a request for the API to get that JSON data I just showed you a few seconds ago. So how to do it is just let's jump to the index page. And in the index page, I can delete the VueJS, or sorry, Nuxt.js default code, which is now shown here, and replace it with a little bit of our code. At first sight, it could look like a little complicated, but it's not at all. So here, I'm just going to decide if what kind of content type I'm going to render. In my case, it will be page, but this could be like teaser, like landing page, home page, article page, and different type of the pages you would render. Then I don't need anymore the logo, and I also like delete this. Okay, now I uncomment this huge block of the code, and I will get back to it in a second. And then I don't need anymore the styling because I'm using the Tailwind CSS. So this is 65 lines of the code, which is very, very basic and easy to explain. So first of all, what I'm going to do is just register empty story with some empty content, and this will be replaced later by our JSON. So if you can see the JSON here in the sample, you can see its name story, and here is the content. So we will replace it. We just make a request and replace it. Then we are using the asynchronous data function. And according to the context, we are going to get from the Storyblok directly from the home page. I will close the sidebar. We are going to basically do a request to Storyblok API for the home page, which is the home because it's called home. So we are just going to form. I wouldn't do it in the real project because in the real project, this should be a dynamic and not static as is here. So we will do something like this, that full slug would be like calculated according to the path or you will get from the context. And also, we are going to, in this same scenario, getting only the draft version, but you should get you should also decide between the draft version and the published version, because if you are going to publish it somewhere and deploy it, then of course you want to use only the published version, and then you will want to also use a different token. But that's not important right now. So we are doing a very simple asynchronous getting data asynchronously. And after the save, you can see that we see a preview. Cool. So it's working. We get the data and it's working. So right now, I can change it to Hello Berlin. And OK, I have to save it also. And then we see also the preview. But I think what is happening right now? So what is happening right now is that we also registered on the mounted event, lifecycle, sorry. We registered a Storyblok bridge, which is listening for a published and change event. So this is basically save button and the publish button. And this is coming also from the Storyblok minus Nuxt.js plugin. So, and what all we need to do is that if Storyblok say like, OK, you hit the save or the publish, please reload, we ask Nuxt.js or force it to reload the page with the new data which we are providing there. OK, so this is kind of cool. We can see instantly this preview, but I think we could be even better. Like what we are talking about, like modern VueJS framework with Nuxt.js. So we have all the data binding there. So why don't register an input even? So this is like a super thing for all the content editors out there who will usually using it for previewing and tasting data and want to like use different words and see instantly how it look like. So what about to like register the input event? And then in the moment as we catch the input event and we are on the correct story, which is not important right now in this moment, we just replace the content with the content from the event, so from the input event, where you don't have to care about it because we are using the module the correct event there. Correct content, of course. And now, after the reload, if everything is working and I click on the Berlin, then we should see live change. So world, hello world. And we can also like change the order in the grid. So let's say like change the feature. Let's rename this to test that you can see it better. And the test, I would like to like move the test to the first place. And then also you can see there's like highlighting because of this module as we can click and open the correct modules on the content blocks on the right side. So still, I don't think so it's cool enough. And I think still we can do a little bit better. So the last thing I basically kind of promised that it will be showing a little bit more about the blogs and articles and how to create a little very, very, very fastly something with articles inside. So how we do it is let's create at first the content type that will hold our article text. Yeah, I don't need to save it. So let's create a component, and let's call this component article. And let's say it will be a content type and not nestable component. So I create a new article. It's here. And now I'm going to define some field to it. In this case, I'm just used my hints here, and it will be like title and then intro and author. So I created the 3 fields basically in this content type. And first is title. We'll hold the title, and it's OK text because it should be short. And I don't want to set up nothing else. Intro should be a little bit longer, so let's make it a text area. And the authors, I think there should be a single option like a select. And let's create a single select option. And I want to load the data from this component. I'm not going to create any data source for that or something. So first author is like me. Let's just copy paste it. And the second author will be like Dominic. Mistake. And save it. So, OK, I just created the author, and I have a component. Let's create like first article in our application or in our project. And I would like to keep all the articles in one place. So let's create a folder for it. So call it articles. And let's say that this will hold only articles. So save it. I will open of course, the folder, and I will create my first article. Of course, with a mistake, typo, doesn't matter. And in this moment, I can create my first article. I can write there. Of course, I would add there more fields with rich text editor or markdown and all the possibilities out there. Like there are 1,000. It's anybody out there who want to have those components. But in this very short and simple example, I would use only these 3. As far as you can see that there's an error page from the Nuxt.js, and the reason is because I didn't create any routing for the article / my first article. So, and I'm not going to do it because that will be a little bit longer. And I'm just going to say that we are going to focus on the content. So it will be form only in this case. So let's fill the first header. And I prepared also little title that Nuxt.js is awesome. And also I copied a little text from Nuxt.js website. And Dominic will be the author, let's say. I will save it. And this is my first article. And OK, it is in a folder of articles, but I cannot feature it on the homepage, and I cannot do anything in this moment with it. So what we are going to do, or what we need to do, is create a feature. I would like to feature it on the homepage. So let's create a featured articles component, which will be nested in the homepage. So I will call it featured articles. It will be nestable, created, and I would like to choose from all the articles I have and just make teasers of them on the homepage. So what I need is I'm going to choose articles, and the articles in my case, in this case, it will be not single option, but because I want to choose multiple of them, so let's go for multi option, and the source would be in this case stories from the articles folder. Cool. Let's save it. And now I have a new component, and I can use this component on the home page. So if I go to AdBlock, I should see a featured articles, and I see it. So OK, I have a featured articles component now. And in this featured articles, I even see my first article I created, and can I choose it and save it, and so I'll select it. But I don't see it in here preview. And the reason is, once again, the same. I didn't create a Nuxt.js component or VueJS component for the featured articles component from the Storyblok. So let's jump to the Nuxt.js back, and let's create those. So first of all, I, of course, prepared something for us. So it's a featured articles component, which just has a little headline or label, if you want to call it, where it should be called show the title. But if I remember correctly, I didn't define that in the Storyblok, so we will have to fix it. And then there is a list of all the teasers. And if you look correctly into that, there is I am calling the teaser component, where I should send the article content, but I didn't create the article teaser component. So the article teaser component is already created here, and it is and do nothing else as rendering the title, intro text, and the author, which we'll get from the featured articles. OK, that looks easy. So I need to register those components, of course. So let's jump to the components.js, uncomment these 2 lines, and save it. It should compile, and we should see something here. OK, we already see some progress. We can select the featured article, but there's nothing. So first of all, let's fix it, because I forgot to get add their title. So let's add their title, which in our case, it's only text, nothing else. So let's feature, and let's write here that it's featured articles. OK, I can save it. I see a label of this section of this component, but I still don't see the articles. And the reason is that if I jump to the JSON, then you can see that featured articles here, sorry, is this component or this block of code. And here is only the UUID of the article I want to tease there. So I need to get those data also. So how to do that is like I use the Nuxt.js on the page level fetch function, which you can already use also on the component level. I just still use the old fetch function, and I'm going to load my articles into the store in the moment as the homepage is also loaded. So first of all, I'm going to check if those articles are loaded, and then I'm going to ask the Storyblok API, just do a little get request, and basically I'm getting everything from articles folder and the draft version. And then what I get, I'm going to save to the store, where basically, as you can see, is nothing else as a references, and there's array of all the articles, and I will just set them and I can load them from the store. And the loading is happening then in the featured articles component. As you can see here, the component data is called sorted articles, and it's just going for the store and get all the articles filtered by the UIDs, which we will get in the block. So from the JSON I already showed you a few seconds ago. Sounds maybe a little bit complicated, but don't worry, it will work. So in this case, OK, it works, as I promised. I see here the first, the only articles I could select, and is here. And this is still, OK, I still could add more articles at least. So let's add the copy-paste just the first article, second. And let's do one more that we have, Storyblok is cool. So duplicate and change also this to Storyblok is cool, that we see some differences between the articles. So I created now 3 articles, and I will just jump back to the home page. And here in the featured area, I will just select also 2 more articles. And now I see there is Storyblok is cool, Nuxt, and 2 Nuxt.js awesome articles. I can save those, but the last thing I would like to do is sort them. If you tease for some articles, sometimes the order of them is really important. So you can do it here in the UI, you just drag and drop it. But the problem is that Nuxt.js doesn't know about it. So it's still and the problem is that we didn't implement any sorting function or ordering function in the Nuxt.js. We are ordering the JSON file here, but we don't do that in the Nuxt.js. And achieve something like this in the JAMstack with the Nuxt.js is super easy, because we already have a sort function, and all you need to do is just define the rule for it. And in our case, the rule is only that we are going to compare the indexes of our UIDs that we get it from the block, and then we just sort according to that our data which we are getting from the store. And if I save this, then we should see, that the compilation compiled. OK, and now I will just quickly reload it to be sure that it worked. So Storyblok is now first, and now if I move it, then Storyblok is second, and Storyblok is third. And this is why this is cool. It's yeah, I can now do something OK, add a new block. I can say OK, and now just let's talk next. and then I can copy my featured articles here, and I change the feature to Nuxt articles. And I say like, okay, I want to show here all the Nuxt articles. And you already see the preview that, okay, here are all the featured articles, here are the Nuxt articles. I can save it, I can publish it, and then I will get a different content. And this is more or less all I wanted to show you today, and how to create and connect very fast the Nuxt.js, which is a great framework, with headless CMS. And as a sample, of course, I take Storyblok in this case. So let's jump back to the presentation. And okay, yes, this is one more slide. And this is like, if you would like to continue what I show you, there's like, you can go to this link and just get it, like go even deeper. Just explain all the like different stuff you can do with Nuxt.js and Storyblok together, and all the principles of the headless CMS is out there, and all that stuff. And that's it. Thank you very much. And if you have any questions, well, like, feel free to write me a direct message on the Twitter, which is probably the best way to contact me. You can see it right here down there. And thank you very much.